He's the creative force behind the hit YouTube channel Belief in Fatherhood, a devoted dad and a passionate advocate for positive parenting. But Glen Henry didn't always want to be a father. Now his new book, Father Yourself First, dives into 6 keys that can transform how men show up as dads.
Glen Henry didn't grow up wanting to be a father. In fact, he thought the role didn't matter. But everything changed when he saw what a good dad could be. Through his YouTube series, Belief in Fatherhood, Glen shares real, raw moments that have inspired over 1 million people to see fatherhood differently. Now, in his new book, Father Yourself First, he challenges men to lead their families by first learning to lead themselves. With honest stories, practical tools, and a whole lot of heart, Glen reminds us that fatherhood starts at home, and being present is the real power.
All right, everybody, joining us now is Glen Henry. Glen, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
We're thrilled to have you. You've worn many hats: content creator, dad, husband, author, music producer, and now this is your debut book, correct?
Yes. This is the one I've been waiting to put out.
How'd you enjoy the writing process?
You know, the writing process isn't really that difficult because it's a lot of different stories that I've kind of told on the YouTube channel, but it was hard to go deep, right? A lot of my therapy has been very helpful during this process because a lot of those emotions that you didn't know you had, you kind of got to dig deeper to figure out where they're coming from. And so it was easy to tell the stories, but it was harder to figure out why the stories needed to be told.
Interesting. Yeah, that can be a difficult, painful process. All right, let's go back a little bit. How did Belief in Fatherhood begin? What inspired you to start sharing your story and really your family publicly?
Okay, so I never wanted to be a father until I saw proof of good fatherhood. A pastor let me into his home, and I was able to see him and his 5 daughters and his wife, and I just saw a harmony that I'd never seen before. And so from that moment, I knew that there was something about fatherhood that interested me. Then, about 3-4 years later, we have 2 kids, my wife and I, and she's in the bed next to me, and she goes, "Tell me a bedtime story." And I'm like, I don't know. I don't really feel like imagining anything right now. She's like, "Well, tell me your 5-year plan." And I said, you know, whatever God has for us. She goes, I trust you with my family and my future, and you don't have 5 years planned out? So I freaked out because she just rolled over and went to sleep. And I went to go ask a friend of mine, hey, I need help figuring out this 5-year plan thing. And he said, okay, well, what's your 5-year plan? I said, I don't know. He said, what's your 15-year plan? I said, I want to be telling people how great it is to be a father. He said, okay, where are those people and how do you want to tell them? I said, I want to be writing books and speaking. He said, okay, well, where is the people's attention? And I said, it's on the internet. And so basically from there, I started to think about what proof I needed to tell people so that they would believe me when I dropped this book. I've been showing not just the good stuff, but also the hard parts, the parts where I fail, in hopes that people would not make the same missteps as I made.
Interesting, Glen. When I read that story in your book, it resonated with me because on my first date with my now wife, she said, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I did not have an answer. And we really should think about questions like that. All right, so once you had a YouTube presence, when did you begin to realize, or how did you realize that, hey, wait, this message, this content is really resonating with people and with families?
It was immediate. It was immediate for me because I was getting comments that were saying, hey, I never wanted to be a dad until I saw this. Thank you. I haven't talked to my dad in 8 years. And because you made this video, I'm going to give him a call. So then I realized I was dealing in the realm of reconciliation, which is something that I even struggled with. So once I realized that the work was doing more than I thought it would, it just was like, okay, I'll just keep going and we'll figure it out from there. My wife wasn't actually in agreement with it. And that's where a little bit of rub happened, but we figured it out.
Is she in agreement with?
She wanted, she didn't necessarily like her life online, right? She wasn't comfortable with everyone knowing who she was. And she was like, you know, I have rules. I don't want to be on Netflix and you don't clean up the house. And I'm like, it's authentic. You know what I'm saying? And I love that part of it. But she just wanted a little less light. And I was trying to explain to her that as believers, right, we can't hide our light. It's going to shine through the cracks. It's going to shine anyway. So we might as well get ready and share this with everyone. And she had a choice, of course, but I already knew that when she asked me what my 5-year plan was and I got a plan, she had to kind of understand where we were going as a family. And it was definitely tough, but eventually she came around.
Now, we could talk about your content for a long time, and we will a bit more in this conversation. But regarding your book, Father Yourself First, what are the key concepts that are most important to you for dads to understand, whether they have really young children or they're just doubting their effectiveness as a father? What do you want them to know?
Well, I think one of the most important things is the changes in the work, right? Sometimes we step into a role and we think of our own expectations, right? So when you become a father, you have these expectations, and sometimes they make it almost bigger than it is, or they give you a little bit of anxiety. I think the thing is, though, like, if you're engaging with your children, you will change and they will change, right? But you will end up having the most growth, because parenting is a whole nother lesson and a whole nother like mirror to how our relationship is with the Lord. And a part of that was just like this. I put out a video and I just was like, oh, I was trying to be patient with my son, and he kept crying. And people kept saying, oh my gosh, you're the most patient father. You're the most patient father in the world. Da, da, da. And I was like, well, who cares if I'm a patient father if I'm not a patient human? Right? I need my attributes, my characteristics, not just to shine in my family. I need them to shine everywhere. Right? And that's when I knew that I had more growth to do.
I thought one of the most compelling parts of your book, and I'm a dad of 3, my oldest is 20, so I've been at this a while. And I've also been a Christian a long time. So when you brought this concept together, it was really a revelation for me. When you talked about how John the Baptist said, I must become less, Jesus must become greater. And you equate that in parenting to the extent of, we as parents, as our kids grow and get older, we must become less, so to speak, so they become more. Can you explain that in regard to being a dad?
Yeah, it's so much about stepping back. I feel like at first we are like, we're coaches. We're doing every single thing, teaching them how to do everything. And then you kind of fade back and you become, a cheerleader, right? And you're rooting for them, and you're hoping that they make all the right decisions, and you're celebrating them when they win, and then you're picking them up when they lose, and then later on, you're just a member in the crowd. You're a part of the people that just applaud them, and maybe sometimes they'll let you support them. Maybe sometimes they'll let you cheer for them, or even get on the team at some point. But there is a level of, we need to take steps back so that they can be who they truly are. And it's just like when, I had to cut my son's hair. He asked me to cut his hair. He had long dreads. And I was like, I don't want to cut this kid's hair, because this is what I know about him. He doesn't know what he wants. He was like, no, I really wanted my hair cut. And I'm like, well, it's going to take forever to grow back. And he said, I really want this cut. And so I cut his hair off, and I realized that once his hair was off, he blossomed. He became someone different. He started to play hockey. He started to smile more, smile bigger. He felt free, ran faster. It was like I was actually holding him back, my own expectations. And so I do feel like, as believers, sometimes, or even as fathers, like, we want so much for our kids to stay the same, even though we know they have to grow. And that's a lot of parents that get stuck in that situation as well. Moms too.
Another thing you talk about is, later in the book, we need to show our children things, but we also need to tell our children things. Can you just briefly touch on what those are for you as a dad, what that looks like?
Yeah, like, you have to tell them who they are, right? You have to explain to them the truths about this world, the truths about this life. I have Black children, so I have to tell them truths that everybody else might not understand. And so also I have to show them how to act those things out, right? I just had a conversation with my son this morning, the way he interacted with his sister, and I was like, hey, as a big brother, I would hate for my first interaction to be something that kind of pulls away from my day, right? And I was explaining to him how much power he has in his words. And it's one of those things, I can tell him that all day, but if I don't show him that and do the same thing to him and do the same thing to his mom, I'm having a harder time being a good witness to the type of parent I want to be. And so a lot of these concepts, these all come right back to myself, right? So even if I'm telling my son one thing, hey, you're strong, you're beautiful, but I'm not treating him that way, that, you know what I'm saying? Like it's being double-minded. And the same thing with my daughters. The crazy thing is my kids have way more confidence than I have ever had, because all we do is pour into them and tell them truths about themselves. And then we remind them of what they've done and what they are capable of doing.
We're seeing a picture of your family now. Beautiful family, and people love to live life with them online. All right, let's talk about dads who are struggling. Maybe they're not confident. You talked about confidence. Maybe they are just not confident as dads. They feel overwhelmed by life, let alone parenting. How can they start? Are there small steps they can take to gain confidence and, you know, maybe start to heal some fractured relationships they may have with kids?
Yeah, I would say that most dads who are struggling with a few things, and it's really they aren't able to speak their mind because they feel like they're gonna hurt the people around them. And so they end up being quiet and stuffing it all in. And that's why I believe Fatherhood was created, so that I can be that Wonder Years kind of voiceover. Hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what a dad is thinking right now in this situation. And I say the first thing you need to do is get a solid community. Eric Thomas once told me not to forsake my sacred circle, still continuing to be with the men that help build me, right? Because not everybody is going to be a mentor for you, but you do have some people that you can lock arms with and walk together. So having a good community is really important. The second thing I would say, if you fail, if you mess up, please apologize to your children. Children are extremely, extremely gracious. They love to forgive. They love to be forgiven. They love to get back to the point where you guys are connected. And so sometimes, and even to older fathers who may have lost a relationship with their child. One thing I just was talking to someone about, they were saying, like, you know, I don't think my child will ever forgive me. And I told him, I was like, try making this promise. I'm willing to do whatever it takes for the rest of my life to get this right. Because this relationship matters to me. It's not always about dads who are struggling with confidence. It's also struggling with pride, right? We don't know how to put aside things to get back to what we used to have. And I think that journey, like that destination, is worth it, taking that trip. So I don't care if you can run 100 miles. I don't care if you are the top CEO here and there. Making the journey back to your child is going to be the best step you take.
Yeah. You've got an enormous following on many, many social channels, but what does success look like for you now, day to day?
Oh, man, success, I am living it. I am interested in the things my kids are interested in. They are helping me grow. One of my kids, they don't, you know, he needs to stretch a lot, and so do I. So we stretch together. My daughter loves to draw. We draw together. You know, I got another kid who wants to rap, and I'm teaching him how to do it. And my wife and I get to spend as much time together as we can. I am extremely successful today. And that's really all I care about. I love being home. I'm a homebody.
Yeah. Yeah. And Glenn, I don't know about you, but in conversations I have with dads, one thing I tell them is if they're married, to be a good dad, try and be a good husband. That's certainly beneficial for the kids. I want to thank you for joining us today, man. It's a great book. It's called Father Yourself First, everybody. Glenn, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
All right, everybody, I encourage you to get it. Father Yourself First by Glen Henry. You can also go to his YouTube channel, Belief in Fatherhood. That's BELEAF in Fatherhood.